I'm Chef Desmond Keefe, and we're here at the Demonstration Theater at Rowan College at Burlington County, and I'm going to show you another episode of The Humble Spud. On today's episode, we're going to be focusing on entrees. Right now, I'm going to start on my potato galette with smoked salmon, and a little later on, we'll work on our curry potato hand pies. Let's get started with our first item. Here I have a peeled potato. I love russet potatoes. They're just the right consistency for doing this kind of a dish because we are going to be giving it a nice crispy texture in a minute. So let's just go ahead and grate this up. Oh, I'm going to use my larger grate. All right, like that. So that's just going to take 1 second. As I'm doing that, I like to give them a lot of opportunity to reduce the moisture. So we're just going to work our way right through like that. And that's about enough. We'll take that off, just like that. And now, there's a lot of moisture in there, as I mentioned. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and roll that up in my towel, and we'll squeeze it out just like this. All right, we'll get all that nice moisture out of there so that it'll crisp up for us in the pan in just a minute. All right, actually, so what we'll do is then we unroll that and go ahead and move it to a dry towel and go ahead and squeeze it one more time. We'll get that out of our way right there. And this time we're gonna roll it in our paper towel, just like this, so that we get all the rest of that moisture out, like that. Now we can go ahead and transfer it back into our bowl. And all I wanna do is season it up with a little bit of salt and pepper. So let's go ahead and give it a little salt, some great, nice ground black pepper, and mix that up. Okay, so there is the mixture that we need to then travel over to the stove and turn this into that lovely crispy galette that we're all looking forward to. And now it's time to get that crispy coating that we really love when we have those potato galettes. So I've got a warm pan here, and we're gonna get some nice unsalted butter in there and start that melting. I like to use a combination of butter and oil. That way we can get the flavor of the butter, and we also will get the higher smoke point, so we don't worry about burning our potatoes while they're crisping up. And now I'm gonna just take the whole thing that we made, and we'll just transfer it right into our pan like that. All right, we'll flatten that out very nicely so that it'll cook evenly all the way through. And now that is gonna take us about 5 minutes on that side, and then we'll turn it over and we'll get the other side going as well. So as you can see, we're getting a nice brown crispy edge around the outside of our galette here. So it's time to turn it over. So let's tip our pan a little bit so we can get under nicely. All right, and then work our way around the edges so that we loosen it up a little so that it's gonna come off in one piece. All right, there we go there. And then it's now ready, so we're gonna tip the pan. And the reason why I tip the pan is so that I don't splash myself with any of the hot oil and butter that are in the pan. So now down it goes. Oh, look at that gorgeous color right there. Now, in order to make sure we get a lot of that beautiful color on the other side, let's add just a little bit more butter to our pan and just a little bit more oil too. And we'll swirl that around just like that. And that way it's gonna have plenty of that same crispiness on the other side, which is what we love when we have the potato galette. I'm gonna turn this down now because we don't want it to get too crispy on the other side. All right, so that's just gonna be a couple more minutes and then it'll be time to plate. Okay, so now that it's beautifully crispy on both sides and cooked all the way through, let's take our galette and transfer it right onto our plate, because it's time to plate up our dish. Now, I like to serve it with sour cream. That's definitely one of my favorites when it comes to doing a creme fraiche like this. Oh, yes. And then I have some beautiful smoked salmon, and we're gonna put a couple of these rolls of smoked salmon right on top, just like so. For presentation, we will also go ahead and do some of this gorgeous pickled onion. And pickled onion, it's very simple. Sliced onion, some sugar, a little salt, some white vinegar and water, equal parts, and then you just go ahead and pour that boiling liquid right over the top and let it sit for a couple minutes, and there you have your pickled onions right over your potato galette with smoked salmon. So now it's time to get started on our hand pies. The first step is to get that dough going. I love this dough because it's really a nice, rich dough. A good amount of butter in here, and that's gonna make it very flaky and buttery, just the way you want it if you're gonna do a nice hand pie like this. So let's get our flour in, just like that. And then we have, so this is a pound of flour and a half a pound of some cold butter that I have cubed up. We're gonna go ahead and put both of those in there to start with, and then our salt. We do have half a teaspoon of salt to go in there as well. So now that we've got those in, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my food processor, and we're gonna pulse this just for a second until it all kinda gets that nice texture for being, crumbly. That's what we're looking for, kind of an oatmeal texture there. So now that it's at that point, I have some ice water. I've got 5 tablespoons of ice water here. We're gonna pour that just right in, just like that. And then I have 1 whole egg that I've cracked. We're gonna put that in there, just like that. And then we'll just pulse it a little bit more. And we're gonna get it to that perfect consistency that we're looking for in a dough. There it is. Okay, now that we've got that to the way we like it, we're gonna go ahead and take that out. And then we'll take that right off like that. And we are able to go ahead and transfer this back into our bowl right here so that we can then get it into the refrigerator for a bit. So we're gonna dump it right out into this bowl, just like that. And then we're just gonna work that for a minute until it forms a nice disc that we're looking for, just about like that. Oh, that's just gonna be a perfect dough, just the way you can see how it holds together, but it's still got those nice globules of butter in there, and that's exactly what we're looking for when it comes to our pie dough. And so now I'm gonna cover this up with plastic wrap, and we'll get it in the refrigerator, and we'll go ahead and start on our filling. Now let's get started on that filling. So we're gonna begin with getting a little oil in our pan that we've already got preheated a little bit so that it'll get that sizzle going for us, right? So we have some diced onions, right? We're gonna put that right in the pan like that. Let's turn that heat up just a little bit more. And some diced up carrots, all right? So let that go for a minute, all right? Very nice. Wanna give that an opportunity. Beautiful, all right. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and add some chopped garlic and some chopped up ginger. It's gonna add a whole lot of beautiful flavor to our dish. There we go. Give it a couple more tosses like that. Now we gotta spice things up. So let's get our curry powder. We've got a little bit of nutmeg. We've got some cumin, some ground cumin. And then finally, I do have some red curry paste, and we're gonna get that in there just like that. All right, so now that that's all doing its thing, we're gonna keep doing our little saute action here. Everything's looking gorgeous. And we just want those onions and carrots to soften up just a little bit. Okay, so this is the point where I can add my potatoes here. These are already cooked. I baked them, peeled them, diced them up, and that way we don't have to wait for those potatoes while we're getting our hand pies ready. So just trying to utilize, and this is another one of those opportunities where if you have some leftover baked potatoes from last night's dinner, you can just do that, and it's a great way to utilize something that you already have in-house to make that beautiful dish. All right, a little salt and pepper, can't go wrong there. And then we have some coconut milk. I'm gonna pour that right in, just like that. Get every last bit. All that flavor is fantastic. And finally, I have some nice peas here. I want to get that in there, give us some nice color and another level of texture. Okay? And then the idea is just let that reduce for a minute so that it's a thick enough consistency so that when I put it inside of my hand pies, it won't leak out. And it's going there really quickly now. So just gonna give that a couple more little tosses. There it is. All right, people ask sometimes, and that's done. People ask sometimes, how do I learn how to saute like that, where you toss that? And I always say the secret is use some dried beans in a pan without any heat on it, just to practice. So you put the beans in the pan, and that way if you spill it, it doesn't matter because it's just beans and you can sweep them up later. And so that's just one of those little secrets that I like to give people when they're trying to figure out how to do these sort of things. So there's our filling. So the next step is to roll out our dough and fill our hand pies. Now that our dough is chilled, it's time for us to roll it out and then to fill our hand pies. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and take some of this flour here and really broadcast a nice amount of flour. And it's important to remember that this is a rich dough, so there's a lot of butter in it, and that means I need to add extra flour to keep it from sticking while I'm rolling it out. So we're gonna just unwrap this real quickly and pop it onto that pile of flour we have, and then give it a little extra right over the top. All right, there we are there. And then we'll just go ahead and get started. So gently at first. One of the things that I have found with this particular dough is that it does really like to tear sometimes if you try to be too aggressive with your rolling technique. All right, so just start slow, and that way you can get it rolled out to the thickness that you want without having any extra little tears, or so it also doesn't start to look like the map of Australia or something like that. So that's always a good idea. So we're just going to do this a little bit more each way, rolling it out like so. And then this is a perfect opportunity to make sure I've got plenty of flour underneath before it gets too thin and harder to work with. So I'm gonna put another batch of flour underneath, and that way it'll continue to be able to be manipulated, and it'll slide out to the thickness that we're looking for here. All right, which is about 1/8 of an inch. That's what we're looking for. So this dough, we're looking to roll out into a square that's gonna be about 15-inch square. That's the goal that we're looking for here. And then what I typically do is that I like them to all be the same size, of course, and because we are making squares, it makes sense for us to measure in order to get them to be the right consistency. See how it's starting to do that little tear there? That's just part of the process here. So don't think inches measured right on it, which I really like. And so you can get one of these anywhere, of course. And so what I'm gonna do is do 5-inch squares. And so we'll go ahead and square it up like so, like that. And then I'm gonna measure it out. So there's 5 inches right there, and then there's 5 inches right there, and then there's 5 inches right there. And then we'll come down, and we'll probably be able to get 2 rows this way, like that, and again about like that. And we'll just go straight across, and we'll trust that we're able to get our straight line worked out pretty good. And then we'll come straight down this way. Okay, there it is like that. So we've got the squares that we're looking for. We'll set that aside, and we may end up using that a little bit later on. But what I like to do now is spread them out just a little bit so that they're not touching each other as I fill them. So we're just gonna spread them out like that, just a little bit. There it is, perfect. All right, just like that. And now what we're gonna do, we'll go ahead and get our egg wash here. So I got 1 egg, just gonna crack that in my bowl. And then we'll just give it a quick whisk with our fork. There it is right there. And then we're just gonna go do 2 sides with our pastry brush. And then we'll come down one side and then go over the top just like that. And if there's extra flour in there, brush that out of the way, because that'll just make it harder for it to stick together after the fact. So there we go there, just like that. So this is how I like to use my egg wash with just straight egg. You can add a little water or milk if you want to, but you don't need to. Just a nice whipped egg, and just for a second, you're not whipping it, just for enough to get it to be that texture that we're looking for. And so now I have my hand pie. So we're looking for about a quarter of a cup in each one of our pies, with our filling that has also had an opportunity to cool a little bit. And so therefore, we will be able to work with it easily. So that's the important thing about making the items in advance, so that it's easy to work with as you're getting ready to pop these into the oven. All right, so let's go ahead and just do that. All right, so, and there's always a temptation to fill them up because you're hungry and you want to have a beautiful big hand pie. But the problem is that they sometimes will leak out of the edges, and then you don't have that beautiful hand pie you were looking for. So now what we're going to do is we're going to reach underneath like this, and then we try to make sure we shape the filling so that it will be just right in the center, just a little bit to the top side of center, and then we roll it up like that, and we just pinch those edges right along like that. And I like to get all of them done, and then we'll go back and we'll do the fork technique afterwards to crimp the edges. So there we are there. Just keep going right around like that. All right. And we're getting them all just perfect. And our dough is looking gorgeous. As you can see, it's holding together beautifully. If you end up rolling it a little too thin and you get a couple of little cracks in the surface, it's okay. You can either pinch it together, you can take a little bit of your extra dough and put it on top like that, because you usually try to put a little hole in there for a vent anyways, so don't worry too much about that. Now, on this one here, I'm gonna show you a little secret. If you'll notice, I'm missing the corner here, so then I'm gonna flip the other way. So that's the bottom, and then nobody's gonna see it. So that's always a good little technique when it comes to that. All right, there we go there. Now we're gonna go back. We're gonna take our fork, and I always like to go ahead and hit it with some flour so it won't stick to the hand pie as I am doing my technique here, which of course is to just crimp the edges. So we're going around like that. And we're just gonna keep hitting our fork with the flour and keep working our way around just like that. All right, I'm gonna work my way all the way around all 6 of these. And then, you know, I should mention that this is one of the items that I sell at the Truly Seasoned farm stand that I do at the Burlington Agricultural Center every Saturday. And it's one of our most popular items. People just love them. And so please feel free to pop in on us anytime. So now I'm going to transfer right onto my sheet pan with some parchment paper, just like that. And the last step, of course, is to get a little egg wash right over the top of each one of these hand pies so that they'll get a nice browning effect once they hit the oven. So there we go, like that. Just like so. I want them to be thoroughly coated, so go right inside those little tine marks where you hit it with the fork so that it's a uniformly golden brown top. And then you'll have the nice presentation that you're looking for when you're making these. And again, you know, you can serve these as an entree to your guests. They certainly could be used, you know, in make them smaller. They could be an appetizer. So they are very versatile when it comes to that. But the thing of them that I love is the flavor. It's just spectacular. So we're going to take these and we're going to go into a 375-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. And we're going to check them after 20 minutes and see how the color is, and that'll tell us if they're ready or not. So let's go ahead and get that right in the oven now. There we go. Let's wait a couple minutes and we'll have a check on those in just a minute. So our potato hand pies are perfectly golden brown. So let's go ahead and take them out of the oven. Oh my goodness. Here they are. Let's make sure we close our oven. And now, let's just plate them up. Look at how they just came out so gorgeous. And then because of the fact that, you know, that filling likes to work its way out, that's always why it's a good idea to put a little vent in there, which is what I did on those, just to remind you. It's always a nice thing to do when it comes to that. So there we have our gorgeous curried potato hand pies. And then, of course, I want to remind you that this was our entree episode. So the other dish that we made to start things off with was our potato galettes with the smoked salmon. So that's it for this episode. Tune in next time when we'll be making classic potato preparations. Stay humble out there.